It was probably my sweetest life, and it was a lifetime in pre-colonial Africa. That means that I was an African person, and in fact, because it was pre-colonial Africa, it meant no one had ever heard of anybody or seen anyone who looked any different than how we looked. As far as we were concerned, we were the way human beings, all human beings, look and should look and are. However, the big problem was that I was short compared to other people, and throughout that lifetime I would ask. I wasn't a Christian, I wasn't praying, I didn't count my rosaries or my beads, I didn't talk to Allah or anything, but I just wished all the time that I would be bigger. So in effect, in this lifetime, I was bigger, not taller, I'm still short, but certainly bigger in girth. Nonetheless, the death in that lifetime was so sweet and so loving and not tragic in any way. And I talk about this particular experience in my book, When We Were Gods. In this particular memory, I am dying. I'm on my deathbed. Instead of bed, I should probably say bier. That's because I was not laying on a bed in a room dying as we would today. At that time, we lived almost entirely outdoors, only going into our round mud huts to sleep or when it rained. My tribe, my village, is there standing respectfully away from me, but they're all there. They're not like on my bed. They're not crowded around. They're giving me space. It's starting to get dark now, but everyone stays near me. They've known me from early girlhood to my old age. They don't fear death. They're used to it. Even from a young age, the children are included. Death is just a part of life for these people. They loved me when I lived. They love me now as I die. My husband sits beside me and openly in public holds my hand, a very loving, tender thing to do. I'm having trouble breathing, but I feel so loved and so cherished by these people. There are women, there are men, maybe a total of 30 people altogether, children, some babies that are in arms, maybe sleeping or nursing. And they're just there with me, helping me so I'm not alone as I make the transition through death. I look up at my husband's face because he is so loving to me. And to my surprise, I see he has mud in his hair. And when I see that, I know I'm dying. Until then, I kept hoping I was going to get better. But because he had the mud in his hair, I knew that this was it. And I did die very peacefully. The next thing I knew was that there was only darkness. But close to me was my beloved sister who had passed before me. I didn't see her. I just felt her. That wonderful love from her. I'd been missing her all those years since she had passed, and it was so nice to be with her again. I didn't see a tunnel the way they talk about nowadays. I didn't see Jesus at the end of the tunnel. Heck, I had no idea who Jesus was at that time. He hadn't even lived yet, probably. This was thousands of years ago, but I had the sweetest, calmest, most loving experience in my death at that time. Now, this sister who had passed before me in that particular lifetime, she is now one of my daughters in this lifetime. So it's really interesting how through lifetime after lifetime, whether a person looks like a pre-colonial African person, whether they look like a North American modern day person, or whether you don't even see them, you just feel their energy and recognize them. They're the same person, and you feel their love, and you send them your love as well. In that past life, as I said, my husband had mud in his hair, and that I knew in the past life memory that meant that I was dying. Now, consciously, I'd never heard of people putting mud in their hair as a way of grieving for someone who is dying. I mean, in my experience, you go to a funeral home, you have a funeral service, that type of thing. I'd never heard of people putting mud in their hair. It was also before the internet, so I couldn't just look up mud in the hair. I'd never heard of anything like this before in my life. Well, a number of years later, I was in Cairo, Egypt, because I wanted to find in the pharaoh's tombs images of my past life memories of Atlantis, and I did find them. So here we are staying at these wonderful people's home in Cairo, and among them is a woman from Sudan. And you know how women are. In no time at all, we know each other's whole lives, because we start talking about our kids, birthing, our husbands, or all this kind of stuff. And she told me this terrible, tragic story about how during, I think it was a war, there was also some kind of terrible disease going around. And one night, her 2 children, she only had 2 children, both of them died of this disease. Oh, I mean, it was just terrible to hear her story and to feel how she still felt so much anguish over that terrible night when she lost both her children. And without thinking, I said, "Did you put mud in your hair?" And she said, "Of course." Wow. It meant that memory had been accurate. Anyway, that's an aside. But I thought you'd like to know, just in case you've never heard of people putting mud in their hair, that people actually do that in some cultures. And it's normal for them to express their grief by throwing mud in their hair. Now, something that really comes up in my mind about these, I wonder, I mean, we take on these different lives. I have a friend who's been remembering past lives, including memories of Atlantis like me, since he was young. And he says it's, for him, a different life feels like putting on a different coat. He said it's just like wearing a red coat at one time or a blue coat another time, putting on these different personalities and these different people, these different lifetimes. But something that I've been wondering, there's obviously some part of us that lives forever. And maybe religious people would call that the soul. In my past life memories of Atlantis, or anyway, the time before Atlantis, I had remembered myself as an eternal light being that was a citizen of the universe. I could travel the whole universe, but I was as a light being. And I wonder, is that eternal part of us, are there different personalities of it? I mean, is your eternal self, your soul, your light being, is it a different kind of personality or characteristics from mine? And so I set up an appointment with my hypnotherapist, Lynn, and I have that question to ask her among some other questions. And that's what I'm going to be doing in my next video. And when it's ready, I will put it up here or somewhere. There'll be a link to it, and also a link down in the description, so you can watch that video as well. Please tap the like button if you've enjoyed this video, and also subscribe if you haven't. Doing both of those really, really makes me happy. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Toodaloo. Bye-bye.